Scott Sloan back on 700 WLW. An estimated 11 million undocumented immigrants currently live across the United States here in Cincinnati. We know Butler County is on the roundup. Cincinnati really doesn't want to participate in the game. The immigration system, though, we have a backlog of almost 4 million cases. And if no one is added at the judicial end, at the court and the FISA courts, that could balloon up to, well, a 16-year wait under the deportation plan. Pallavi Ahluwalia is on the show. She's an immigration attorney out of Texas. She sees this stuff firsthand. Good morning. How are you?
A wonderful morning to you. I'm doing very well. Glad to be here on your show.
Yeah. When you see the coverage or maybe the commentary online and elsewhere as an immigration attorney, you've been doing this for a few minutes too. What bothers you the most about the coverage, or what do we get wrong as people? I think for me, number one is the fact that we're largely talking about people from south of the border as, when it comes to illegals, certainly they're crossing over. That's a concern. But the number of illegals in this country are all from Hispanic countries south of the border. Number one would be India. China is up there. Certainly Mexico is up there, too. And I think we forget that.
Those are legal immigrants, though. They've come in here. The number of, are we talking about legal or illegal?
Well, largely it's people who overstay their visas are the largest ones, and those would become people who are flying into this country, correct?
Yeah, well, the overstays for Indians is a very, very small number, as it is with the Chinese. There are different statistics out there, and we can explore them again. But I think in terms of overstays, there's maybe 1% of Indians that over.
All right. So, and let's just focus on the problem at hand right now. You're kind of breaking up a little bit there. I apologize. Let's focus at the issue at hand. And Trump comes out and says, okay, we're going to start moving some of these people out there. And you also have, in addition to that, folks who are pulling their kids out of school. And we know it's a crisis. Where does the problem lie in all those things? Because I'd rather fix the thing rather than point fingers and, hey, we're going to kick these people out. But it seems to me, if we fix the way our immigration system operates, that we need immigrant labor here, but we need them here legally, we don't seem to be ever addressing that end of it and streamlining the way to get into this country as opposed to making it harder.
Correct. So, I mean, there has to be something that has to be done that fixes the immigration process overall, streamlines and recognizes the requirements that the U.S. has for whether we call it migrant labor or strategic high-skilled labor. There needs to be studies that, could be conducted that will streamline and meet the immigration requirements of the country and meet it with the law that changes or keeps in step with what's required. So the point is that there are old rules and then there are new requirements. So, and we all know that the people that even cross the border and come in do get utilized in the labor system here, right? And they're seamlessly part of our labor system, meaning they're in restaurants, they're in places, janitors, and you can literally, that's what's starting our hum of the American system. So there is obviously the requirement to deport people who are not here legally. And that has been done over the last many, many years. There is more light on it right now because of President Trump's executive orders. But this has been ongoing. Deportations are part of what every government has done. Last government did 724 deportations a day. Last quarter alone was 174,000. But right now, we're looking at what this administration would do, and they have to follow the law. And deportation, if people are here illegally and they have not they've been here in the last 2 years and they have not filed for asylum, they are subject to expedited removal, as they've been subject to expedited removal under any government. So this part will keep going on. There is nothing going to stop this. It just has the attention of the public as if it's being done for the first time. The deporter in chief amongst the past presidents was actually President Obama. 3.4 million deportations during his term. So less is known about it, but it is the background that always goes on in the country because it is to follow the law.
Yeah. In your opinion, as someone who deals with immigrants, and I'm sure you're flooded with people who are scared to death, and even if you're here legally, you're probably feel like you're being profiled to some degree as well. Is it why isn't either Democrats or in this case Republicans address that end of it? That we need immigrants. If you go to a restaurant, if you need something built, I mean, we're talking about physical hard labor, farming, and all those deals, where people will come and gladly take those jobs. We need that because if you get rid of that, the American economy slows down, and that's not good for anyone. I don't understand why we haven't addressed that end of it relative to visas and making it easier as opposed to having a wait list for years and years and years to get in this country. That just incentivizes what we're trying to stop in the first place.
Correct. So, there has not been strategic planning around the labor needs of the United States. It is an old system that still works. Mm-hmm. If they were to give migrant workers visas to come in and work and renew those visas every 3 years, looking at whether they have employment or not, whether they're paying taxes or not, we would have a way better system that would work. I mean, people can come in, they can, if there are restaurants that want them, but the tedious methods to get those people in legally and the small numbers that are allowed for those laborers is so daunting that people just don't engage in that. Right. People don't sponsor, they don't do it. It's prohibitive to people. So like we're saying that there is a requirement and there are people, right? So once there's a requirement, the illegal people seamlessly fit into those requirements, mm-hmm. right? But if you were to create a legal path to that, there would be a way better use of people and have them pay taxes like the legal immigrants do. So we have, on one side, from the high-skilled workers that come in, they are contributing to the IRS in terms of payroll taxes and other taxes, Social Security taxes, which they will never take benefit of because they're just H-1B visas, for example.
Yeah.
Like they're not entitled to retirement. So, you asked me in the beginning for my opinion, mm-hmm. and the opinion is it's a political issue. So everyone has used it to their advantage. Nobody wants to resolve it. If you wanted to resolve it and you were to put czars on it on different levels, whether it was from, laborers and blue-collar workers or high-skilled workers, then there would be a solution. I mean, we're one of the best countries in the world where people are drawn to us for a reason. There is a infrastructure in place that supports people's desire to do well and, produce the best for themselves and for their families. And that's why people come here. So if you have a streamlined method that would recognize the requirements of the United States and measure it up to the requirements of the immigration needs, and you can have an, escalating number. If you have too many people that have come in this past year and we don't need X number of people to come in, reduce your numbers. Right? Mm-hmm. And the next year, if you feel that there are more, restaurants that have been built that are not staffed, that are now, increasing prices because they don't have enough labor, well, increase the number of people that you invite into the country for that work.
I can't help but think that maybe the politicians want it set up this way so they have either an ally or an evil, right? And, this is Donald Trump. President Trump ran on this immigration policy that was going to get rid of illegals from this country because they're ruining everything, allegedly. He did that. But then Democrats come in and they just wrap their arms around them. And it seems like these folks are caught up in a political game of hot and cold, right? We're welcome under this administration, next one, not so much. And largely, these are people who are just coming here to work, send money home, and get a better quality of life. You as a legal immigrant, our mayor, Aftab Purival, is also an Indian. His family came here and said, "Hey, listen, he will not do anything about illegals because of the safety and security. We're a sanctuary city and all this stuff." I have people that I work with and who work for me who are legal Venezuelans, and I'll be honest with you. You think Donald Trump hates illegal immigrants? You ought to talk to some folks who came to this country legally. because they're adamant. It's like, wait a minute, I had to do all of this to make sure I came here legally, and they feel like they cut to the front of the line. But this is an issue that can be solved, I think, a lot more easily if you address the issue of need, as opposed to looking at this as, asylum or asylum seekers, asylum. Why aren't we just making it a labor issue as opposed to political asylum? Most of the people who come here aren't, maybe they're escaping poverty and gangs largely, but they're coming here for opportunity. That's an entirely different thing, isn't it?
Correct, it is. And because the law just allows them to use asylum, unfortunately, a lot of them end up making up asylum claims, right?
Yeah.
My law firm in Dallas, Texas, we just don't do asylum. We used to do asylum when we recognized that, for example, Syrians coming in, and we could see literally, torture marks on them, right? So we would take on those cases. But we just, as a principle, we say no to them because we know that people are inventing stories. And we will not just participate in those stories because we understand them as a ruse to just stay back. Right. And there are, again, if we were to match what the economy needs with what immigration we need, we would have a better process to be able to allow people. And it has to be an adjusting process. It's not what a Reform Act of 1996, right, that we're sitting with, correct? Because that recognized the issues then. There was going to be .com that was coming in. There were different things that were going on at that time, right? So there was a different requirement. And we also have to understand, Scott, I'm talking about legal immigration now because that's the community that I represent. And the Einstein visas that we do. So we've had a lot of students that have come here. They paid the high bucks. You know how expensive going to school here is. And we're not talking about, in-state kind of tuitions, right? We're talking about international F1 students that come in here and learn the best from the professors here. They're very motivated. They're here to gain education and to better themselves and their family, whether they intend to stay back in the U.S. or go back. I know all of my family that send their kids here to study, they've gone back to India. They work in India, right? They have not stayed back.
Right.
They have not stayed back here to take a job from another U.S. person. But they have different motivations. So when they come in here in huge amounts, they're going to get absorbed in the system. None of them end up staying illegally. Most of them find different ways to get jobs, and then they eventually get sponsored. But you know how long it'll take an Indian national who is paying, I'm going to say 100,000 almost a year, but 30 to 40,000 a semester to universities. It would take them 60 to 70 years to gain lawful permanent residence. We're not even talking about citizenship.
Did you just say 60 to 70 years just for residence as opposed to citizenship?
Correct.
Wow.
Just to gain residence. So there is a lot of rhetoric out there. There's less known facts about a lot of things. And people think, oh, we don't want them. We don't want them. Well, really, they are working. Yeah. And yes, the schools that take them in are not only taking the tuition, but these are students that come in and they're renting apartments. They buy food. They help the economy all over, right? And they're spending money, correct? They're bringing in money from abroad. They're spending in the U.S. for about 4 years or sometimes 2 years if they're pursuing master's programs. Sometimes they go into another master's or a PhD. So they're here for a while.
Right.
They get a job. They pay taxes for things they'll never use. They'll never get the use of the retirement.
Yeah, it doesn't seem equitable. And as I said, the easy solution here is to address the back end of this and how we allow people in this country, the reasons why. Pallavi Ahluwalia is on the show. She's an immigration attorney out of Texas and dealing with this firsthand. And this would, of course, be the exodus of illegals out of this country as well. It struck me as you're talking about this. We are a nation of immigrants, right? My people immigrated here. You immigrated here. We love immigrants, just not the current immigrants. But it's always been that way for 249 years, 250 years. That's the way it's been. The immigrants that came before, they were legal, they're fine, they built this country, but the immigrants today, it's a whole different thing. We could have said that 100 or 200 years ago.
Correct. Yes, it is. Whenever somebody is unhappy and they have somebody to look towards, who are they going to look at, right? Who are they going to blame? They're going to say that, I'm not doing well because of this.
Right.
Now, I can tell you, an H-1B worker, and I speak because I see so many, right? I represent a lot of companies, but I see so. If you tell them that you've got to go to North Dakota in the winter to do this job, you think they're going to say no? They won't.
Yeah. Yeah.
They will not. You think my kids who are born here are going to agree to do that? They're going to say, nah,
Nope.
I'm not going
Nope.
to take that job.
Nope.
I have a backup here.
Yeah.
I have parents. I have things that are going to support me, the system that support me. I'm not going to go take that hard job. But do we say that to immigrants who are legally wanting to maintain their status? And most of the ones that are in the legal process want to maintain that status. They do anything. Those are the ones that line up in my office. They got laid off. Now they want to know how can they legally stay back in the country? When do they have to leave? When is their last day that they can be here? Those are the kinds that really care. And those are the kinds you should have there because they're contributing to Social Security payouts right
No
now.
question. And it strikes me also that we never address this issue. It's unfortunate. And obviously you're an immigrant to this country, Pallavi. My people, my Italian side, which most of my family Italian, I lost a relative back in the 1900s who came to this country, and when he was digging, I think he was digging subway for the subway in New York City when the thing collapsed and left, I guess, one of my relatives with a large family without a husband at that point. Now, she wound up getting remarried, but I think of that, all of the blood, all of the death, all of the mistreatment, maltreatment, and the like in history of immigrants who came here to build this country. And at the time, Italians were looked down upon as inferior people as well. And, we have a new batch of people coming to this country, largely Hispanic, and looked at the same way. That will never that never changes. But what needs to change, though, is how we allow people in this country. And we, on the Democrat side, and certainly the Republican side, there's no fortitude to do that. She's an immigration attorney out of Texas. Pallavi Ahluwalia, thanks so much for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Scott, and all the best to you.
You too.